midst of the darkness, God has sent us His light. There's no need to be anxious. He will lead in our fight. If you've been called by the Savior, you will surely win. All you have to do is listen. Let your soul take it in.
Welcome, everybody, to the Trust in the Lord Hour at this noonday hour here in the Big Apple in New York City. This is our second day of our new broadcast time. As you know, we have now gone live at 12 noon as opposed to our previous live hour at 9 a.m. But we're still broadcasting at 9 a.m. It's just a pre-recorded edition, and we're broadcasting from our studio here in the community formerly known as Harlem. But God Almighty has changed the name of this community to Ottawa. That's what God said. And today we're continuing our series on Alpha and Omega. In Revelation chapter 22, verse 13, now he says it in other places, but in this particular segment of the text, he says it's written in red, meaning that Jesus himself is personally speaking. He says, I am Alpha, which means the beginning, and Omega. And then he elongates that expression by saying Alpha meaning beginning and Omega meaning the end. And then he says, I'm Alpha and Omega. Let's just read it. I'm Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last, Jesus says in the text. So he gives it three ways. First, Alpha and Omega. Then the second way, the beginning and the end. And the third way, the first and the last. Check it out. Today, in the continuation in part 6 of the Alpha and Omega series, I want to just kind of backtrack over a couple of things and pray that we can make your life richer, and especially for those of you who are preparing to live in the 1,000-year reign of peace. There's a lot to be said about that period that comes immediately after the tribulation and immediately after Satan is bound for 1,000 years. That's why there'll be 1,000 years of peace, because Satan would be bound in a bottomless pit for 1,000 years, according to Revelation chapter 20, verses 1 through 3. And there will be those of us that will live during that extraordinary and unusual period where Satan will trouble the people no more for 1,000 years. And then, of course, he'll be let loose for a little season, and we've covered that as a subject matter as well. But in the Alpha and Omega ideals, and for us to get ready, I want to just continue to suggest some things. Because a few months ago, I was saying, well, I don't know how to get ready to live 1,000 years. I don't know how to get ready to live after this kingdom of Satan has been destroyed and God's kingdom has been established for 1,000 years. I wasn't sure, but the Lord has been revealing to me little by little, and I want to continue to reveal to you. Now, one of the things that we want to do is that we realize that death is a curse, that it's not a creation. That is to say that it is not imminent, that it is not all powerful, that it is not all enduring, and that death is not eternal. And that's a new way of thinking about it because it's so pervasive and so many people have died. We tend to think about it somehow or another as something that is eternal and pervasive and all powerful, but it isn't. It's just a simple curse. And we have discovered by going through Alpha or Genesis chapter 1 and 2, that when God created all things, death was not a part of the process. Death was just something God said would happen, but it wasn't created, and it isn't a creative entity. So in having understood that, it then takes a lot of the strength out of death, takes a lot of the sting out of death. When we understand it from that perspective, and of course gives us all the more opportunity to think that we can live a lot longer, which then gives us the faith and trust to overcome sicknesses that are usually associated with death. If we realize that it isn't as bad as once we thought it was, as Satan has tried to make it, because he himself will not die, though he will be thrown into the lake of fire. So we have been suggesting some things to you to do to begin to create the opportunity for your faith to enlarge your tents and to lengthen your cords and to cause your life to be longer and fuller. And one of those things that we had suggested is that you go back to school. Now, you don't have to go back and sit in a classroom unless you just want to. And for many people, I think that might even be a good idea, but not necessarily for everybody. This is not, an overall or for everybody statement. However, For those who want to go back and sit in the classroom, great, do it. Especially if you're 60 years old, sitting among 20-year-olds. It's going to be fascinating and invigorating as well. And but the other item, of course, is that if you don't want to go back and sit in the classroom, then you can take up the ideal, if you will, of reading a book a month. Just one book a month, normally 300 to 400 pages long. Any book, doesn't really matter what it is, by good authors, by the way. But if you read a book per month, it will educate you. You'll find so many things inside of a book. You can travel, you can go to different continents, you can experience different ideas, you can go to different hotels, you can actually go to the Waldorf Astoria or the Plaza Hotel, or you can live on the French Riviera, or you can understand something about the historic people of the 14th century or the first century, or and then the thing that I think is most important is reading the Old Testament. You read the Old Testament, my brother. You read the Old Testament, whether you're an atheist, agnostic, whatever, an atheist, whatever you are, read the Old Testament and it will give life to you. It is such a fascinating book. And it gives you so many avenues for growth and understanding. And by reading a book a month, that's what I want to say to you. It will stimulate your brain, stimulate your experiences, and broaden your tent. Someone said to me years ago, said that if I would learn to be proficient at the computer, that it would invigorate me. It would cause me to not have memory lapse. It would cause my brains to start working in areas where they haven't worked in a very long time. The older you get, the less you involve yourself in new things. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Now, I'm not calling you an old dog. But, after we reach a certain age, we get settled into the ways of what we do, and we just don't do any things that are different and exciting anymore. Same vanilla ice cream all the time. But if you were to engage in things such as by reading a book, one book a month will change your dynamics. But it needs to be a good book, it needs to be 300, 400 pages, but it will change, it will cause you to grow because you're going to learn new things, you're going to experience new things. And what I've learned a lot about, working the computer and all of its various things that it does, multiplicity of things that it does. And you have to think very quickly to move along with it, read very quickly as well. If all the awful things I can say about the computer system, it's a lot of good things happen as a result of, by renewing your brain and opening up areas of usage of your brain that you don't normally use will also open up areas of a longer life. So you need to be mindful of that as we're preparing ourselves now to become greater, longer living, healthier people as the elect. Now these are messages that I'm giving to you, and that if anybody who will hear this, then perhaps you're hearing it because God's called you to be one of the elect. And learning again is just an incredible thing to do. Two things. One is the teachers who teach school, you're in a great job because you tend to have to learn, and you around young people, that is fascinating. You ought to pay whoever school system you're working for because it adds to your life. And then I went on to say that we need to make peace with our disruptive past. That is to say, if we got trouble spots, trouble years, let's say you went through a bad marriage, or you went through a bad time, a rebellious time, you had a disruptive, there's 5, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 years where you were just in a disruptive point of view. Maybe you were an alcoholic or something. You need to make peace with that past. And there are a lot of people in that past that you'd probably need to make peace with. And I suggested to you that you would try to, by making peace with them, if it's possible, you contact them, but I would not suggest that you go and contact people who are not going to hear you and not understand. If you go to them and say, listen, I'm sorry I did the things I did. And I just want to make peace with that. And they just jump all over you and say, well, I told you you're wrong then, you're no good then, you're no good now. Then you don't bother with those people. You don't have to. You know what you can do? You can write their names on a piece of paper, right? And then sit down at your desk and talk to talk to them as you know who they are. But don't let anybody abuse you. I'm not saying to you make peace with your past by letting people abuse you and cause you to kill somebody or make things worse. You understand? You can even make peace with the deceased. And a lot of people do this. They go to the cemetery and they talk to the tombstones. I'm not suggesting that you do that. If you want to do that, I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see anything wrong with going to a cemetery and talking to a tombstone where your beloved loved one lies. I don't see a problem with that. There's nothing wrong with it. But you may not always be able to get to a cemetery, and you may not know where everybody's buried. But if people that are deceased, you may want to make peace with them as well. And I believe you can do it. I mean, even in your own sense, that you can make peace. So I think what this does is what we're looking at now. Remember, Jesus said, I'm Alpha and Omega. And we're looking at a segment of scripture, especially the last 3 verses of the book of Revelation, where where Jesus outlines what he prophesied in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, where he said there's going to be a great tribulation where there'll be a destruction of the creation of planet Earth, and just a few people who are known as the elect will live in that 1,000-year reign of peace. And so these teachings that we're now applying can be used just for people who just want to stop thinking about death. You want to stop thinking about whether you're going to get coronavirus. You want to stop thinking about sickness. And if you are presently sick, you want to stop thinking about that sickness going to take you to your grave. Remember, we read in the book of Job a couple of lessons ago that Job said, the very thing that I thought was going to happen to me, and I was afraid it was going to happen to me, I feared it greatly. It actually did happen to me, Job says in the book of Job. So I think chapter 3, I think it's verse 25, thereabouts. I'll have to check that address again. But you need to realize that if, you start, well, I'm going to die, I'm sick, the doctor told me this sickness will take me to death, you'd be surprised at how hard the Holy Ghost is fighting to keep you alive. You're fighting to die. You think every day, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, this sickness is going to take me to death. And the Holy Ghost is trying to keep you alive. If you would join with the Holy Ghost and say, well, I'm going to live, the heck with this sickness, I'm going to live. You can say like the woman with the issue of blood. If I could just touch the hem of his garment, 12 years bleeding, but I'm going to live. When a man that was at the pool of Bethesda for 38 years, he says, for 38 years he's waiting on his blessing. You got to just say, I'm going to live. That has a power. See, when the woman touched the hem of Jesus' garment, he didn't say, you know what he said to her? He said, the woman, your belief all these years have healed you. He said, you didn't ask me to heal you. He said, Jesus said to her, you didn't talk to me. You didn't tell me your name. You didn't tell me your problems. He said, what just happened to you when you touched the hem of my garment was between you and your faith. Your faith hath healed you. And same thing with y'all. You've got cancer, some other debilitating disease, and everybody said you're going to die. Why? Because everybody said you're going to die, because everybody said, why? No, you have to, can I share something with you? I believe this, that, God gave me a prophecy. God just a little bit of, a little bit personal, not personal, but a little bit, I don't know. Well, personal, yes. Back in 1991, God spoke outlaw to me, right? And it has directed every decision I have made on the last 29 years. Every decision I've made has all been about outlaw. And it hasn't come to pass, but I keep living for it. 29 years. You think after that, you would give up. Why do I want to give up now? It's the thing that causes my life. It is the very essence of the teaching that I do. Not to be boastful or anything, but I come in, I do this every day. And I pray that each day I can take you a little deeper, a little closer, a little wider, and you can learn a little bit more than you learned the day before. And I can do that every day as long as you and I are together. Why is that possible? It is possible because I have something bigger than myself that is guiding my faith. It's called Atlah. And the joyous thing about this thing, Atlah, is that it is not about me, but it's about people who are now oppressed, depressed, sick, impoverished, homeless, broken, children without fathers, women without husbands. And it's all about seeing a wonderful time in an extraordinary land and place where men are fathers to their children and lovers and husbands to their wives and providers for their families and contributors to the community. That's what I'm living for. I don't need that for me. I don't need that for myself. I mean, I'm not personally, I'm living for that for literally countless millions of other people, and it keeps me alive. And it guides every decision that I make. If the things I'm going to have to make a decision about something, if it isn't going to advance Atlah, then I ain't going with it. I don't care what it is. I'm not going with it. So Jesus told the woman at the well, the woman at the well, I'm going to get to her too at some point. But Jesus told the woman with the issue of blood, he said to her, your faith has made you whole, not me. You didn't even ask me for healing. How do I know? I didn't even know you were in the crowd. Well, I didn't know it. I didn't go that far. But he's saying, your faith have made thee whole. Go thy way. And you got to just stop. You got to start saying, I'm going to believe. I'm going to conquer. I'm not going to be poor. I run around. I say this all the time. I'll never beg bread. I'll never be defeated. People look at me and say, what is wrong with him? But think about it for just a second, that I'll never beg bread, I said, and I'll never be defeated. And that's what I think about. I don't think about, one day I'm going to run out of money, or one day I'm going to this or that, the other, one day somebody's going to whoop me. You see what I'm saying? And I'm passing it on to you. You do the exact same thing. So we need to make peace with our past. And as you now see, I'm making peace with, I'm even writing back to the major prisons I was in, like Union Correctional Facility in Rayford, Florida. I'm giving a shout out to find out if, anybody there that was there the years I was there, or remember me. I know Pastor Stauffer, he came to the church, and okay, but I'm looking for some of the inmates that were there, that maybe I taught them when they were there. Or even the imam, the Muslim imam, he was about my age, a little bit, he probably a little older than me though. Maybe he's still yet alive. And some of the students that saw me, and everybody used to call me preacher. At the prison, everybody just called me, hey, preacher. Yeah, I said, well, does anybody, I'm reaching out to that area. Because if those men are still in prison or out of prison, I'm not looking to have a prison reunion, but I just want to reach out to that part of my life. And not just at Rayford, but at Auburn State Prison here in New York and New York State. Same thing. And I know one of the persons that I was very friendly with, a fellow by the name of Big Bob. I know he was from Harlem. I know that. I know Tizman was from Syracuse. And Hito was from the Bronx, Puerto Rican. But there's a whole lot of folks. So to anybody, they remember me. Remember preacher? Y'all remember me? I want to connect with that past now and see how I advance from that, and try to help and see where they are in their lives as well. I think that one of the things that you might want to also look at is using the tool of admitting you have been wrong about a lot of things. I think the definition of stubborn is to refuse to admit you are wrong, and you seem to find excuses, and you think that by finding wrong in other people, somehow or another approves of your wrong. It's a psychological trick of the devil. But you have to admit. You have to use the tool of admitting that you are wrong in order to proceed to the next level of life. You do. You have to. I mean, you think about it for just a second. Forgiveness is a large part of the teachings of Jesus. It's even a part of the prayer he outlined Lord, forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. That forgiveness is based primarily on understanding your fears and your motives, and also admitting you're wrong, admitting that you are wrong, before you even try to judge anybody else about being wrong. That way you're able to move on. Because once you admit, see, as long as you think you're right about a particular situation, it doesn't matter what else happens around you. You can't move from that period. You're wrong, but you can't move from that period. And one of the things that that I have been teaching lately, and I pray God will let me teach you more, is trying to help the Hamite community, the Hamite nation, the black people, help them understand that they are wrong about slavery, and they're wrong about America, and they're wrong about the white man in general. And they won't move from that. They will not move. They're judgmental about slavery. They're judgmental about America. They're judgmental about the white man. And so as a result of that, they can't move and prosper. And I keep trying to tell them, you're wrong. Slavery was just, it was laudable, biblical, it was laudable. You know, Truman dropped the bomb twice on Japan at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japanese don't hold that against America. They sell Toyotas and Samsung and Panasonic and Sonya and all that stuff. They don't hold that. They moved on from that long ago. Though it was a devastating thing when those two atom bombs were dropped on the cities in Japan. But the Japanese people have moved on from that. Black people are still, white men did me wrong, white did me, slavery did me, slavery. And what's worse of that in terms of the two things. One is that slavery was biblical, it was laudable, and it was just. And the other is that the black leaders, 99.9% of them that you know or see, profit from continuing to promote and fester that slavery was wrong, and that the white man is wrong, and that America, that's all they do. They out-shop the Jesse Jackson, the Obamas, the Dr. Dre's, the rap artists, all of that. If you look at all of what they do, and that's why you see them so quickly move to Black Lives Matter ideology, because they make money by keeping you angry with America about slavery. And until let's look at it this way. Jesus said you need to forgive those who have trespassed against you, as you expect people to forgive him to forgive you of things you've done against him. And until the black community, Hamite community, lock, stock, and barrel at 99%, rise up and say, we forgive America and we love her now, you ain't gonna never see no progress. You ain't go. Black people, black young boys are not gonna stop killing each other. Black fathers are not going to stop running off their children. You ain't going to never say, I don't care what you can dump you can dump zillions of dollars into the black community. They're going to still act like apes. Yeah, until they say, I'm ready to forgive America en masse and mean it in their hearts. And that's what I've been preaching. That's what Outlaw is all about. And imagine how difficult it is to sell that lesson to black people. That's why it doesn't matter whether you become a Kobe Bryant or you become a Dwayne Wade or you become a Denzel Washington, or whether you become a Spike Lee. It doesn't matter whether you become a PhD or an MD doctor, or Harvard lawyer. It doesn't matter what a degree of education they attain to. They still have that hatred and unforgiveness in their heart. The fellow who graduates from Harvard Law School still has the same hatred that the street gangster, that the drug dealer had. They're the same. There ain't no difference between the drug dealer in Harlem and the guy who graduates Harvard Law School. They still have the same hatred, and that's why they can't progress. That's why you can't grow. And by the way, they're dying. I mean, if you look at the panoramic view of what I'm teaching today, you can understand that's what's wrong with black people. They are holding an unforgiveness against an item that God blessed, because slavery was biblical, it was just, and it was laudable. And yet, So you can understand. So now, having said that, let's get back to you personally. And if you there, let's take a moment to go to the Lord and pray. Heavenly Father, I've in teaching this lesson today, first of all, I'm excited about the opportunity to reach out to so many people to help them. And I'm excited, Almighty God, not for myself, but I'm excited for you, Jesus. I'm excited. I go to my prayer, I go to my prayer closet. And the very fact that I would say these things that you once said, as much as they are rejected by so much of humanity, yet you want them said and can't find a mouthpiece, can't find a person who has the courage to say them as I've just outlined them. And I've outlined and said so many things that if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their unforgiving ways, I will bless them and I will heal their land. You have said, Almighty God, and I'm thankful you give me the voice and the courage, even though I myself am greatly hated for speaking on behalf of you. But as you said to the prophet Isaiah, who will go for us? Who will go and speak on behalf of God? Who will speak the things that need to be spoken to the people? So Jesus, I'm thankful to be able to speak and on an individual basis that people can just stop thinking about dying. Quit it. Stop it. Stop thinking about dying. I don't care about you being sick. Well, I'm not saying I don't care about you being sick, but let's start planning on living. Let's say we'll never beg bread. And let's say we'll never be defeated. And then as a result of our saying we'll never beg bread, that we'll never be defeated, that we will do those things that are biblical, that will not cause curses to come upon us. Poverty is a curse. God did not create poverty. When God created the heavens and the earth, he created bountiful blessings and bountiful fields and trees. Poverty was not created. Poverty is a curse, like death. It is a curse that comes upon you when you violate God's word regarding the tithe and the offering and the first fruit offering. Then poverty shows up, but it isn't an entity that lives forever. And so, Lord, I thank you for allowing us to now choose life rather than worrying about death. And I thank you, Almighty God, for letting me be your spokesman. I'm honored to say these things. I'm not afraid of the faces of the people or their wicked and insidious pitchfork spirits many times that they demonstrate towards me. But I'm honored to speak on your behalf this truth. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from these wicked ways, turn from these wicked ways, then I will hear their prayer and I will heal their land. And in your name, Jesus, I pray and give thanks. Amen and amen. So now so we need to also look now at what some of our fears and our motives, what they are, why we are afraid of certain things, why are we afraid of death? Are we afraid of death because we think we've done something wrong and we deserve to die? Then tell God, listen, no, I did it. How about another chance? Pull a Hezekiah on, or the king Hezekiah. Well, I'll tell you about it. He's one of the kings. He pulled a fast one, but God sent the prophet to tell Hezekiah, "You're getting ready to die." Hezekiah said, "What?" The prophet said, "Get your house in order, homeboy. You're getting ready to die." And Hezekiah said, "Ooh." And he went and told God, he said, listen, give me 15 years to get this straight. And God says, all right, I'll give you another 15 years. How many of you right now, if you could just get another solid 15 years from today, what's it 2020, to 2035, right? To September 2035. If you can get 15 years, how would you think about that? The first thing I say is this: if I got 15 more years between now and to 2035, at the end of 2035, I'd be asking for another 15. That's me. And I'm stone cold serious about that. You know, if I were not a member of the elect, you know, I got 1,000 years, but I'd be asking for another 50. If I can get 15 out of God, well, let me try one second time around. Let me double dip for another 15 years of life. But stop thinking about dying. And I think one of the things that you also have to deal with, so you're going to read a book, right? You're going to read a book a month. You're going to begin to educate yourself, go different worlds. Man, I traveled all over the world when I was, I've read so many books during my vacation time when I was away. You know what I can talk about that time. You know, I read so many books, it was absolutely crazy. And I read all kinds of different books, and I learned so much. You know, and when I traveled to Europe, I said, well, I've been here before. I had not been there before, but I've been there in reading and books. I've been to the Brandenburg Gate. You know, I learned all about the Reichstag and all of that. I've been to the fancy hotels on the major airlines. You know, I've done all of that while sitting in my prison cell. And probably my most profitable learning time. So you're going to grow. Even now at 65, you're going to start reading a book a day, right? So now, and so we're going to learn how to use the tool of forgiving and in order to be able to be forgiven. Learn how to use that tool, and then refute the spirits of fear and dispute the fear at some of the motives that we have. We got to figure out, well, what are our motives? I have one motive, and that is atla. That is, you know, that's my function. That's my motive, atla. And again, atla is not for me. What atla is prophesied to bring, I already have. I already have everything that atla is prophesied to bring. I already have it. What I'm praying is that the millions of other people who don't have it can have it. That's what atla is for me. It's not even for myself. It isn't for me. I already have what atla prophesies. So it's important for us to learn how to deal with our motives and to be able to admit our wrong and to examine those. Now, we watched Joseph the other day. Last time we were together in Genesis Alpha chapter 50, how Joseph had every reason to be mad like y'all angry black men are and angry black women, Hamites you are. Joseph had he was sold into slavery. This is clear. This is absolutely clear. His brothers sold him into slavery. Joseph, the son of Jacob, right, went down to Egypt. I think one of the most devastating things that have happened to modern day, in the modern era of black man, was that Alex Haley book called Roots, because it was nothing but a lie from page 1 to the very end. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, Kunta Kinte, lie, 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 and created more anger and angst and violence and unforgiving. Listen, Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery the same way the African kings and African tribes sold y'all into slavery. That's what that was. That's all that. Ain't no white man gonna go to Africa with 20 men on a ship and then go deep into Africa and beat 1,000 African warriors and put you got to be out your mind. You don't tell that lie to. And then the thing I thought was insulting about the Kunta Kinte, the Roots event, was that white men were running through Africa. Hell, they didn't know the streets. They didn't know the avenues. They didn't know the jungle boulevards. They get lost, but they're running around with a net. That was so insulting to the black man, to throw a net over a black man that Alex Haley wrote. That was so insulting that they were catching black men with nets, like you're some sort of a wild bull or something. I said, how the hell are black people letting this stuff go on? And they reading it, and it became a Pulitzer Prize winning book. A net? You mean you can catch Kunta Kinte in a net? You believe that? You believe? I mean, hell, they didn't even do the Indians like that. No, I've not seen one civilization that says that the conquering warriors use nets. It's like they didn't even, the whole idea that Alex Haley was writing about was treating black people like they were animals, catching you in a net. That's what you do with an animal. You catch them in a net. It was horrendous. And then all this business about chopping off your feet And so a man can't work if he ain't got no feet. You know, all this business about brutality. Listen, man ain't gonna work if you beat him every day. He ain't gonna be able to get up next day and go to work. That's a lie. It was a lie and it has done more to distort and fuel hatred. Alex hated. He should be strung up by his toenails and torched, Alex hated, for such a lie. But I think it's important that Joseph, right, was sold to slavery the same way y'all was sold to slavery, right? Sold to slavery. The Muslims took him down to Egypt, and they sold him again as a slave. He's first sold to the Muslim, then he sold to Potiphar, right? Then Potiphar's wife lied on him. Then they put him in prison. But you know what Joseph said? He said, brothers, I forgive y'all. He said, y'all meant it for evil. In Genesis Alpha, chapter 50, verse 20, he said, y'all meant it for evil. I know what you did to me. I know what y'all did to me. I know what you did to me. I know what your fears and your motives were about me. You did it for evil, but God meant it for good. And I've been teaching that the black man, Hamite man, needs to say, wait a minute, you may have thought what the white man did bringing us here as slaves and what our kings and elders and witch doctors did in Africa, selling us, and we became slaves, but God meant it for good. Because look how much better blessed we are right now. Listen, people living on government subsidies in America right now are better than people who got jobs in every major company and major nation in Africa, except for the liars and the thieves. They may have meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And until the Hamite brother can say that in his heart and genuinely mean that, he ain't going nowhere because he's against God. He ain't going nowhere. He ain't right. I'm telling you, Al Sharpton's not right. Obama's not right. Jesse Jackson ain't never been right. None of these people are right. None of them. Malcolm X won't right. None of them are right. None of them. They're not right. They're none of them. And here comes the truth. There's slavery biblically. Slavery was biblical. So we have to learn how to do, now that's a larger community and a national approach, but going back to your personal experiences, you need to learn to read a book, and you need to learn to forgive, so that you too might be forgiven. And you need to understand as well that the things that you're unforgiving of is that you can't grow beyond them. Let me say this one other that's a little bit personal. I don't know of anybody who's ever been to prison who will open up their life to call on people from the prison to come testify about their walk inside of a prison. I don't know of anybody who's ever done that before. You know why? Because inside of a prison, you do a whole lot of things that you might be shameful of when you get out. And, or just some things that happen to you that you would not want the world to know about. And so you cover that. Most prisoners, including Malcolm X and everybody else, you cover that. But you see, I lived such a powerful life as a preacher, respected. I was a leader in prison. I just about took over the prison. And there's not one ill report. There's not one person who knew me in those years can say I did one thing that was untoward or one thing that was ungodly. I walked upright in a place where it's almost difficult, impossible to do. When I call out to Rayford on the chain gang, when I call out to Auburn in the bake shop or to the Brooklyn House of Detention, and I say anybody who was there when I was there, come, and I'll give you an audience, because there's nothing ill that I did, nothing I'm ashamed of, nothing. Nothing. I don't know anybody who has a life that is as powerful as that. I just don't know anybody, because I saw people do things in prison that I wouldn't even tell you. It was so horrible. But my life in prison, I walked upright. They called me preacher, and they meant it. And the fact that every person I went to, I debated the imam. You ain't who you think you are, Mr. Muslim brother. Yeah, I'm the Lord's servant, even in prison. And I stand here today opening up anybody who knew me in prison. Anybody, come, anybody, doesn't matter. Because I lived an upright, righteous man's life inside of prison. And the reason why I was able to do that mainly was because, first of all, I wasn't angry because I was there. I wasn't angry because I wasn't angry with the white man, even though he had me on the chain. I wasn't mad with him. I have to tell you, I was still a little bit upset with this guy, Gaspar Zizzo. He owed me $20,000, right? And I gave him good jewels. He made a whole lot of money. Why can't I get my money? I was a little upset, but I'm going to forgive him now, right now. Gaspar Zizzo, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that go. But so we need to understand the process like Joseph. We need to understand. We need to understand. And now that when I saw Obama appear on the scene, I knew instantly this is the worst thing that could ever happen to young black men. The worst thing, and black people in general, Hamites they are, Hamites. I knew instantly, before he opened his mouth, he's going to sow hatred and destruction and death in his wake like you have never, ever seen before. Even worse than the book, Alex Haley's book, Roots. And it is so. And guess what? God chose me. And by the way, like Joseph was in prison, I was there too. You know, the Bible said in prison that God put Joseph in charge of everything, that the guards put Joseph in charge of the prison. Well, when I was in prison in Auburn, the guards put me in charge. That's right. I'm not bragging about being in prison, mind you. Please don't know. I'm just trying to show you who I've been. I just didn't wake up. And I've tried to live humbly around men who I see. You know, it's very difficult to live as a powerful life. It's very difficult. And so you try to live humbly. And so these things I'm just beginning to say now, because in many ways most men could never testify like this. But I need to make peace with this period. I need to use this period. God wants to use that period to show people, that you don't have to be angry all the time. You don't have to. You can make peace with the white man. You can make peace. You can make peace with life and live. And that's what God's got me doing. So I think it's very important. Go back to school and learn to live by the Old Testament. Learn to live the way, the Apostle Paul lived in the New Testament and the way Joseph lived. They all went to prison. John the Baptizer was beheaded in prison. And you need to understand, but the miracles, but you can now begin to live a long and miraculous life. So this Alpha and Omega thing, when I say to you that what is happening to America right now in terms of Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, let me tell you something. You would rather be in hell. Now, hell is not the final resting place, which is another thing. Hell is just a temporary stopover. You're going to be a judge from hell and then thrown into the lake of fire. But you'd rather be in hell than be in America right now. Hell is more peaceful than America with LGBTQ. And what they are, and Black Lives Matter, what they are doing to the minds of young people, I can tell you that you wouldn't even find such evil activity going on in hell. The hell is in existence. Jesus went down there and preached. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 20, Revelation chapter 20, verse 14 and 15, that both death and hell will be thrown into the lake of fire. But people in hell right now have a better and a more peaceful life, even though they are in hell. They have a better and a more peaceful life than people who are living in modern day America with LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, Barack Hussein Obama. There is more peace in hell than there is on earth right now with those things. And you have to you have to understand spiritually where I'm coming from to be able to appreciate that. But that's where we are. So I want to give a shout out also to Bashir, the Muslim that was alleged to have been a part of the shooting of the New Jersey State Trooper on the Jersey Turnpike with the woman who has now escaped and now living in Cuba, Bashir, the fellow that stood up when this fellow George and Bumsey, I guess they thought they were going to rape me. Yeah, that's true. And if I'll give a shout out to Bumsey too, and his friend George in the Brooklyn House of Detention. And Bashir said, "All right, I'll fight with." And Bashir was great at martial arts. They decided to back down. But I want to give a shout out to him. I don't even know what his last name is. I don't know whether he's living or dead. I do know this, that not only did Pastor Stauffer, Reverend Richard Stauffer, who's my prison guard, come and speak at the Outlaw Church, but another man that was a prisoner with me at the Brooklyn House of Detention, his name was Lonnie McLeod. He also came to our church. Lonnie McLeod came about 4 or 5 years ago, 7 years ago. He was released after serving a 25-year sentence, max. He maxed out, and he came and he looked me up, Lonnie McLeod. He later became a pastor, but he has since died, Lonnie McLeod. And I let him stand in the pulpit and speak to our audience. That's the kind of man I was then. So when you see me walk up right now, if I could do that in prison and never stumble not one time, then you need to take a note of my lessons that I'm teaching and get your life together. All right, so I need to wrap everything up here today. I didn't want to get all that personal today, but I thought that was good to bring that up. The Lord wants you to start reading and start living and do new things, right? Choose a new flavor of ice cream. Start eating pistachio, right? You know, go back to school if you can, and stop being so stubborn about where you are presently, and also understand that what's happening in the humanity of the Hamite people, they're just wrong. They're just absolutely, and they're preachers. Just because a person is a preacher doesn't mean that somehow or another God called him. He just decided to want to preach. He's in a church, and maybe he's charismatic. So he got a church, and so my children go to this church, and my daddy goes to that church. They're all wrong. They're all wrong. And not just wrong in the sense that they've done their brother wrong, but they're wrong because they're judging God. Slavery was biblical. And even though one might have meant it for evil, God meant it for good. Because you learned about Jesus, and you're in the greatest nation on planet Earth. So begin to die. Listen, you don't have to tell me that you're with me or that you believe in me. The moment you believe that, the moment you hear that, what I just said, and believe it, that slavery was biblical, that it was laudable, that it was just, and anybody who meant it for evil, God has meant it for good, you don't ever have to say, Pastor, I'm with you. I can see it. I can hear it 1,000 miles away. I can hear it 1,000 miles away. I don't know anybody who's ever been to prison who talks as much about it as I do. And the reason why I talk so much about it, because so many good things happened to me as a result of having been in jail and prison. That's probably the best part of my life. I met Jesus there. I learned the Bible there. I learned how to walk like a man, learn what to be with. I saw weak men. I saw men turn into women. I learned how to be a preacher in prison. That's why I mention it every time I get up to talk. It's in me. I don't care what those police officers did to me in Miami Beach. They may have meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And hallelujah. And boom shakalaka goes right there. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. Now that the coronavirus, a lot of people are afraid to send their children to schools, especially the public school system, and I tell you, I don't blame you. It is very risky in the public school system, and so a number of parents have taken to homeschooling. And if you're out of state or even out of the region of New York City, the 5 boroughs of New York or the northern part of New Jersey, and you want to homeschool your children, let us be an homeschool assistant. We have a bona fide jam up and jelly tight education system here at the Outlaw School System, from kindergarten all the way up through high school, and we do a great job. We produce lawyers, doctors, architects, artists. I mean, God has literally laughed on us as an education institution, and it's just given great blessings. Some of the best institutions in America, our students are accepted at. And we recently had one of our students graduate cum laude. That's the first. That is a first, and we need to make note of that. While we have students that have been accepted at Yale, at Juilliard, at New York University, and a number of other very prestigious schools, our first cum laude has happened in our institution, and that's a first that we need to make sure that the education system, the Outlaw School System, acknowledges that. But what I want to say to you, if you're planning on homeschooling your children, register with our online homeschool assistance program. We have an online homeschool assistance program where you can register. You're living in Houston, you're homeschooling your children, but we can come alongside you every day, and we'll assign a special teacher to work with you and your children so that they will not be completely isolated. And you know that even though you're the parent, you're not fully qualified to teach them in every subject matter that they need to be taught in. It will be a wise thing for you to call our ministry at number 877-777-0734. Ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. The number is 877-777-0734, and ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. The number is 877-777-0734, and ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. And go ahead and let us work alongside of you, because you, I mean, as loving as you are as a parent, you just aren't qualified to do all that is necessary. We can be of great assistance to you on your schooling program for your children.
Maro mihitsy olo miteny. Maro zany le olo miteny fa misy sasany miteny izy zanakanao lera za tsy mahavoataiza ny mihitsy. De eka oa, fanjara koa izy ty fa de fa tezaiko foana fa ataoko zay mahabe anazy.
It is a belief that a cleft can be a curse, so often even from when they're born, they are rejected children.
Efa voateraka izy, efa hitany ma izy nisy problème, de izy niteny hoe tsy zanako, hoe mitaranaka anay tsisy an'io, de izy bokoa lasa, de resiste raha vaviko amizay nzao nanampinampy anakaty.
If we can change her life early, when she's still young, then she can just live a normal life and be a normal person, and it will make a massive difference to her whole life. It's not just the physical appearance, it's being able to eat and also speech.
Mety gaga donc olo mahita anazy amizao io.
This is about really changing people's lives. It's not just a few individuals, it's individuals that make up communities. They can be re-established in their village a lot easier when they look more normal.
Listen, men and women of goodwill, please hear me. Black Lives Matter must be defeated. The concept, their position of power at present, must be destroyed. Black Lives Matter must be destroyed.
The Lord has sent His holy word.
I want to state that, of course, we're so thankful to have this new hour to broadcast, to be live at noon. As you can see, it's raining outside here in New York City today. I don't know what it's doing where you are. Angela Kane usually gives us a weather report of where she's at. Angela, I don't know what's happening down in South Carolina, where you are. I want to give a shout out to Goldfinger. Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch. That means so much. Goldfinger. And we haven't heard from Brother Donald Springfield. By the way, if we have any lawyers online right now, Brother Joseph Manning has a case of medical malpractice. Brother Manning, Joseph Manning, has a malpractice case, and he needs somebody to assist him. And I'm wondering if anybody will maybe you don't have to represent him, but if you could just give him some advice. You can contact me here at the ministry through the prayer line or through the outlaw response, whatever it is that you can find to contact me. If you're a lawyer, an attorney, or you're a law clerk, or you're a paralegal, Joseph Manning needs some help right now. He really has. He's been messed over by the medical practices of where he's at in New Hampshire. So we want to reach out to him. Also, I want to reach out to Brother Donald Springfield. I haven't heard from him. Want to try to find out where he's at, what's going on with Brother Springfield as well. And I want to remind everybody that we do need your financial help. If you right now see that it's, making ends meet and paying bills and meeting your obligations, find it very difficult, and you're just trying to run your household, think how much more so difficult it is to run the household of this church. So please send your tithes and offerings to help us out. Amen. All right. So now, and we're going to ask the engineer to bring up Sabbath again at the Confusion of Faces, but you can also call me if you're a lawyer and you want to help Brother Joseph Manning. The number is 877-777-0734. Let me give it to you one more time. The number is 877-777-0734. And please leave a direct message. And if you're calling, there's no one answering, leave a message on the answering service at number 877-777-0734. Help Brother Joseph Manning out. He needs some help right now. All right, Mr. Engineer, let it rip. Listen, men and women of goodwill, please hear me. Black Lives Matter must be defeated. The concept, their position of power at present, must be destroyed. Black Lives Matter must be destroyed.
The Lord has sent His holy word to free you from the chains of all the lies, the false leaders that you hold high. They've placed illusions right before your eyes. You keep thinking that they will bring you change. All your marching, yet still no victory. Confusion of faces. Oh Lord, confusion of faces. Stop placing blame on everyone. Look in the mirror and confess it's you. They make you think that you have won, but yet your children suffer through and through all your talking, destroying your own kind. You keep taking, tearing down young minds. Confusion of faces. Oh, my Lord, confusion of faces. Confusion of faces.
My tweet read, "Stop Black Lives, that Black Lives matter." We've got to put a stop to this monster called Black Lives, this insidious double whammy satanic movement moving across the good heart of America called Black Lives Matter is a monster, and it must be stopped. Welcome, everybody, to the Manning Report. I am Manning, the quintessential American, broadcasting from our studio located in our church building. And our church building is located in the community formerly known as Harlem, New York City. But Almighty God has changed the name of this community to Otla. How's everybody doing today? A little bit of a rain, slight rain, here in the waning days of September. The great debate tonight is going to happen, and I guess you're all going to be logged on to it. We'll see how all that works out. And we've actually rearranged our schedule for all the things that are happening. And we got a lot of things going to be covering today as well. Going to be looking at that, and I'm going to give my handicap, right, about what I think who's going to be the winner and who is not going to be the winner as time goes on. And then, of course, we've got this September surprise, this bombshell report by the New York Times that has been able to have Tribulation Trump's tax records leaked to them, and they're publishing it like 90 going north. And so all that's going on. We'll try to cover that today, as well as the some things that we've been pointing out about what will happen if Joe Dementia Biden and Kamala Camelback Harris wins the election, and what life will be like for me. I probably have to leave and move to Australia. Got to move down under, put some shrimp on the barbie. At any rate, so let's go ahead and get started with, I don't know how, Bob Jackson, if you're out there, Bob, remember Simon and Garfunkel from that blockbuster movie, Mrs. Robinson? And this was a soundtrack to a movie that Simon and Garfunkel wrote called Hello, Mrs. Robinson, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And inside that line, appearing from absolutely inside that song, that was a monster song, appeared this very strange line where they just kind of paused and said, "Going to the candidates debate."
Going to the candidates debate.
I wondered back in my youth, that was back in the 60s, I think this or the 70s, that this happened. I said, why did they put in that, that line about going to the candidates debate? And at that time, I really wasn't interested in politics, but really it was during the time of the debate of Nixon, and it was, I guess they were referencing the time of Nixon and John Kennedy as in terms of their time of debate, but debating was something that the upper echelon, I think, of people who thought they were in the know found interesting. But listen, I'm going to go and handicap the debate tonight. All right, so here's what I'm going to do as we get started today. So let's get started, right? I think that one of the ways we need to look at, here's some things that we know. And what we know can teach us because before you have the debate tonight, I want you to sit down before your television, whatever it is you're going to sit down before tonight, and be absolutely stomped down, boom, shakalaka, ready to deal with all of what's going to happen tonight. So let's review this, all right, together. You and I, we're just talking. The one thing that we know, we've seen Tribulation Trump right, in a presidential debate with Hillary Jezebel Clinton, right? We've seen that. We kind of get an idea of how he's going to operate. My only question tonight, the one thing I'm sure about everything else, so let's start with the things I'm not sure about. The things I'm not sure about tonight is whether or not Trump is going to wear a red tie. You know, my instincts and all that I know about him tells me that he would have to he's going to wear that red tie and that blue suit tonight because he makes himself the incarnation of the American flag. Because everywhere you see him, when he's before a crowd, he's got a red tie, a white shirt, and a blue suit. Now, I have to tell you that in case you don't know, blue suits and blue shirts are known on camera to be very soothing to people that are watching. You'll notice that Joe Biden always wears a blue suit. Seldom does, and Trump does as well. Trump very seldom has on anything other than a blue suit, and Biden has picked up on it because blue is a very soothing color. And if you can wear a blue shirt, now they don't like wearing blue shirts, they like to wearing white because it looks too like they've gone too far off the rails if they put on but even a blue shirt, a light blue shirt, it helps communicate your message. I assume, so tonight, the big question is whether or not either one of them will have on their trademark blue suits, and Biden, who didn't always wear blue suits, and Obama, who seldom wore them. Obama wore a lot of gray, a lot of charcoal, and a lot of black. But will either of them wear blue suits tonight? And if so, will Trump wear his signature red tie? And if he wears his red tie, if Trump wears his red tie, you can be assured he's going for the jugular tonight. He's going to run over dementia Joe Biden like a Mack truck running over a skateboard, if he got that red tie on. Now, if he puts on another tie, that means he's trying to reach another audience. If he puts on a different colored tie. So let's see. So that's number one. Now, with Biden, what kind of a suit is he going to wear? I suspect that Biden's going to wear a blue suit. The lighter the blue, the more Biden is going to try to play defense rather than attacking Trump. The darker the blue, I think he means he's going for the jugular with Trump, as much as that Biden can do that. Now we know that Biden is not glib. He's not. Words do not flow easily for him. And a cacophony of ideas strung together in philosophical ways is not Biden's shtick. He's not able to do that. On the other hand, that a cacophony of ideas strung together in a contiguous and continuous and a very stinging shtick is what Trump does in his sleep. Probably when Trump is sleeping, he's doing the same thing he does when he's awake. So I think what America is going to see tonight is going to be a polar opposites. These people are about as opposite of each other as you can begin to imagine. Now, we're going to hear a lot about money tonight. We're going to hear a lot about the money that Beau Biden got from the Ukraine oil company, and he got a lot of it. I think that looking at the amount of money and the millions that he was paid when Biden was vice president is off the charts. And I think there's a rat going on there. There's something about that all that money going to Joe Biden, that Joe Biden had no experience in the natural gas or oil refining business, but yet was put on the board of directors of this Ukrainian oil company. You're going to hear a lot about that tonight. You're going to hear a lot about it. And you're also going to hear a lot about Trump's taxes that's just been dropped by the New York Times as a bombshell report. So you're going to hear a lot about money tonight, who's the most wicked, and they're fleecing down the government. You're going to hear tons and tons about that tonight. But in that regard, both of them are both guilty. But Biden is not philosophical either. Trump is not philosophical. Neither one of them are philosophical. That is to say, by philosophical, I mean, they do not think in poetic terms. Biden, tries to wax eloquent from time to time, but it just is an enemy. He doesn't have that skill. Trump doesn't have that skill either to wax eloquent, but he's entertaining. The boy is just entertaining. I mean, he's an entertainer. He should have stayed with The Apprentice rather than the presidency. He is whatever you say for him, yes or no, yay or nay. The boy is an entertainer, and he knows how to hold an audience. You want to, even if you don't like him, you want to hear what he has to say because he's entertaining. On the other hand, Biden is boring. He is boring, and if he becomes president, all Americans going to go to sleep because the boy is boring. About the best thing you say about Biden is he got great teeth. But beyond that, the man is boring as all outdoors, and I think he's going to play that. Plus, he gets given to gaffes, and he stumbles and stutters from time to time. So this could be an awesome battle tonight. This could be Biden being attacked by a junkyard dog. And it could be an all-out, drag-out, knockdown fight. I'm going to watch. Give me some popcorn to watch this tonight. Now, the other thing I think everybody wants to know this question, didn't some of y'all write to me and ask me this question? Will either one of them be on drugs tonight? Now, if you have not seen the live streaming on Showtime of Comey Rule, you got to check that out. The Comey Rule, James Comey, fired FBI director, fired by Trump, right? The one that Trump wanted loyalty from. You got to check that one out. It's very entertaining from moment to moment. It's very well written, very well scripted. And Jeff Daniels, who played Comey, and the actor that plays Tribulation Trump, whoa, man. It is, and the fellow playing Andrew McCabe looks just like Andrew McCabe, by the way. But the question will be, which one of them is on drugs? And the reason why I said that is because the writer and the producer of the Comey Rule insinuated about 15 times in last night's episode that Trump is on cocaine. Because when they had the person playing Trump last night, making statements, he would make a statement and then go, now, you notice Trump hasn't done that in the last year or so. The first 2 years of his administration, I mean, that boy was sucking up, like a windmill, sucking up air after he make a statement. And many concluded that that's what happens to people who are cocaine addicts, right? People who do dope, who do the cocaine, that it causes your nose to feel runny. Cocaine burns out all the hairs in your nose, burn out all the membrane. So you feel that your nose is running, even when it isn't. And sometimes it is running. So you're always sucking up. And so for the first 2 years that Trump was president, he used to suck up, man, like you wouldn't have. But he doesn't do it so much anymore. So, we don't know. Now, Trump is saying that, Tribulation Trump is saying that they both should take a drug test. I said, this boy is bold, This boy is bold. Because he's saying Dementia Joe is on some sort of steroid program that makes him high and going to give him the opportunity to stand there for 90 minutes. 90 minutes. But Trump is saying, let's take a drug test. Now you got to watch Trump because he's slick. Trump could be suggesting that they take a drug test, knowing that he's got cocaine in his veins, hoping that Biden would say, no drug test. Trump said, all right, no drug test? Why not a drug test? But he's like Brer Rabbit. He said, don't throw me in the briar patch. Because Brer Rabbit, the very place that Brer Rabbit wanted to be was in the briar patch. But Trump is saying, let's take a drug test, hoping that Biden will not say, let's take a drug test. He killed that right away before we get started, because they probably find not only, I don't know if they'll find cocaine in his drugs, I can't be sure about in his blood, but they'll probably find medication, because, it is believed by many that Trump had a stroke about 6 months ago, that he had a mini stroke, and they rushed him off to Walter Reed Hospital on a Saturday afternoon, in the middle of the afternoon. Many believe that he actually had a stroke, and then when he addressed the military guard at West Point, he was walking kind of slow, and he turns to lean to this left side like this now more than he has ever done so, which is signals that he probably had a slight stroke. And if so, he's probably on some heavy medication to prevent that stroke from happening again. And one of the things that probably his staff is going to be looking at, if he did have a stroke, I don't know that he did, but a lot of people believe that he did. And I'm not spreading rumors here, I'm just telling you what, he was rushed to Walter Reed Hospital. One of the things that's going to scare the world tonight, that if Trump did have a stroke going back a few months ago, will the pressure that's now being put on him by the Lincoln Project, by the New York Times, and by his low poll numbers, and by having to debate Sleepy Joe, will he freak out? Will the pressure of a stroke cause him to freak? Would his pressure cause him to freak out tonight and he actually gets sick? This is something that I think that both candidates are concerned about. Both camps are concerned about. These are two older men, and Biden is about 5 years older than Trump. He's subject to have a physical mishap under all this pressure tonight as well. So it'd be very important that we look for all of these things. I'm James Evan Manning, everybody. Going to the candidates debate. All right, Mr. Engineer, take me out of this segment, please. I'm James Evan Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. Now that the coronavirus, a lot of people are afraid to send their children to schools, especially the public school system, and I tell you, I don't blame you. It is very risky in the public school system, and so a number of parents have taken to homeschooling. And if you're out of state or even out of the region of New York City, the 5 boroughs of New York or the northern part of New Jersey, and you want to homeschool your children, let us be an homeschool assistant. We have a bona fide jam up and jelly tight education system here at the Outlaw School System, from kindergarten all the way up through high school, and we do a great job. We produce lawyers, doctors, architects, artists. I mean, God has literally laughed on us as an education institution, and it's just given great blessings. Some of the best institutions in America, our students are accepted at. And we recently had one of our students graduate cum laude. That's the first. That is a first, and we need to make note of that. While we have students that have been accepted at Yale, at Juilliard, at New York University, and a number of other very prestigious schools, our first cum laude has happened in our institution, and that's a first that we need to make sure that the education system, the Outlaw School System acknowledges that. But what I want to say to you, if you're planning on homeschooling your children, register with our online homeschool assistance program. We have an online homeschool assistance program where you can register. You're living in Houston, you're homeschooling your children, but we can come alongside you every day, and we'll assign a special teacher to work with you and your children so that they will not be completely isolated. And you know that even though you're the parent, you're not fully qualified to teach them in every subject matter that they need to be taught in. It would be a wise thing for you to call our ministry at number 877-777-0734. Ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. The number is 877-777-0734, and ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. The number is 877-777-0734, and ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. And go ahead and let us work alongside of you, because you, I mean, as loving as you are as a parent, you just aren't qualified to do all that is necessary. We can be of great assistance to you on your schooling program for your children.
5 billion people around the world don't have access to safe, affordable surgical and anesthesia care. It's not something that we can ignore and hope that it fixes itself.
Mercy Ships is a unique organization. We bring all of the infrastructure services that we need to operate a world-class hospital on a ship. It's a powerful tool.
We experience experience how lives have been changed, how people have been transformed simply with the gift of surgery.
On Sunday evening, the New York Times dropped a megatron bomb on Trump, Tribulation Trump, with a report of his tax filings over the past 15 years. Now, obviously, the New York Times was able to acquire information about Trump's taxes in what is obviously an illegal way. They did not get these from the IRS, did not release the return information. Trump's law firm did not, or his accountants did not release this information. But someone either in the IRS or within Trump's accounting firm, or someone who knows Trump and has access to his tax return information over the past 15 years, released that information to the New York Times. My question is, however, and I'm sure they've had lawyers look at this and tax accountants look at this up and down Main Street as to whether or not you can use information that has been illegally gotten in a public forum. I don't know if you remember the movie Rainmaker, John Grisham's story, Rainmaker, where the young lawyer was dealing with the insurance company, and the woman who had stolen some information from the insurance company and turned it over to the law firm, and the defense was saying you can't use this because it's stolen information. I don't know if I suppose that the New York Times, I'm sure they got great lawyers, would not have released this information even though it was ill-gotten. This was not information that was provided by the Internal Revenue Service. This was information not provided by Trump's accountants, but someone leaked it. And they've got tons of it. They've got information about Trump's taxes up the wazoo. And they're just slowly, they're going to drip it for the next 30 days, leaving Trump nowhere to run except to, throw up his hands and fall on the mercy of America, because it's alleged that Trump paid no taxes for 15 years and only paid $750 in taxes once he became president in 2016 and 2017. So obviously the information is accurate. The method by which it was acquired will raise some questions. But by the time all that's litigated, it'll be all over but the shouting. So I think that this is a major. However, I don't think it's going to influence the Trump people that are with Trump, his diehard supporters. You got 30% of Americans that are with him. They don't care about Trump's taxes, whether he paid taxes or did not. They don't really care. There may be some undecided voters, and I don't know where you're going to find them as well. Some say that 3% of the American people are not decided. The other 97% have already made up their mind. They may be persuaded by looking at this to discover, well, maybe, Trump isn't really the great big businessman that he says it is. But I think even with the Trump supporter, it's going to strike a blow. They're going to stay with him. They're not going to abandon him. They're not going to do that. You can forget that. If you think you can persuade the Trump supporter, the diehard Trump supporter, to leave him because of anything you're going to hear over the next 30 days, you're mistaken. But it is going to put a dent in their own sense of reliability and credibility. And even if Trump wins the presidency in this election term, he will not have the same kind of power going forward in the next term. Because people will look at this and say, you lied and said you were this great businessman and you've really never turned a profit. Your father left you a ton of money and you've run every business you've ran into the ground. The only time he made money was on The Apprentice. He made $300 or $400 million while he was on The Apprentice, and then made $700 million more from brands and selling and endorsements as a result of having been on The Apprentice. But his real estate business has never turned a profit. So I think that's going to affect him in ways that coming down the road, but it's not going to cause him to lose the presidency. If he wins, if he loses it won't be because of this, I can tell you that. But it makes for interesting dynamics to bring this up, because otherwise Trump was going to eat Joe Biden's lunch over Burisma and that Ukrainian oil company that paid Beau Biden all that money just to sit on the board. And we know that he paid Beau Biden because Beau Biden had the ear of his father, and his father was influential in the oil drillings of Burisma. And that's why all that money was paid. And Joe Biden is guilty also of taking money from the Ukraine. So I think the reason why this is dropped tonight, on Sunday night rather, is to counter the Burisma argument. But I think the other thing I would say, and this is what I would do, and say that this was leaked by somebody, either some person, some secretary, some person who has access to this information, leaked it, stole it, and leaked it, gave it to the New York Times. My question is why is that when Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama, was running for president, why is it that nobody ever leaked the information about, Obama was asked by Tribulation Trump to release his college transcripts. Trump said, I'll pay the charity of your choosing $5 million if you'll just release your transcripts from Columbia and from Harvard. Now, you would think, and I argued as well, that why not release your transcripts, Obama? Why not release your transcripts so some young boy in the 8th grade can say, Obama got a C or Obama got an A in various studies while he was at Columbia or Harvard, and that means I can make it as well. And what's so bad about a transcript? It's your college transcript. Nobody's asking you to release your medical records. Obama was not asked to release his medical records. He wasn't asked to release any other records about himself, just your college transcripts, which you would think are not necessarily in any way alarming or harming. Obama wouldn't do it. Even with $5 million on the table, he still wouldn't do it. And the reason why he didn't do it is because he never went to Columbia University. That's the reason why, because there is no transcript of his attendance there. And that's why he wouldn't release it. And he went to Harvard. And his grades at Harvard were not that good either. They just kept pushing him along because he had made a deal with the CIA. Obama made a deal with the CIA to go to Afghanistan. After the Russians pulled out of Afghanistan, the Afghans people beat the living daylights out of Russia, and they turned tail and ran. And then there was a group called the Mujahideen, who got started as these fighters in the hills of Afghanistan. Obama went because Obama had a Muslim cadence. He kind of talks like a Muslim. He looks, he understood his father, at least alleged to be Muslim. And he went there as an asset of the CIA to work with the Mujahideen. Obama's work with the Mujahideen in the 1990s was able to develop them from the Mujahideen to what we now know as the Taliban. And in 1999 or 2020, the year 2000, the Mujahideen, which had been a small fighting force in the mountains of Afghanistan and Kabul, became the leader of the Mujahideen. Then they became the Taliban in a more appropriate name. And the leader of the Taliban became the president of Afghanistan. That's how influential the work of Obama was in Afghanistan. And that's where he was for 3 years when he alleged to have been, and Columbia University provided him a cover saying he was attending Columbia University rather than Occidental College in Los Angeles. And so that's why he would never release, because you would think that why not, you're the first black president allegedly, release your transcripts. I've released all the information about me, my prison record, my arrest record, my homies, because I have nothing to hide. Obama would not release his. So my question is, and my question then was, why is it somebody at Columbia University does not leak the records? And the reason being, I suppose, mainly is because only the CIA had those records. The Columbia University knew that he did not attend there. Listen, I was across the street. Columbia University sits on the east side of Broadway, and across the street from there is the university that Princess Louis works for. It's the name of that university, and just south of there is Union. All those three schools are right there together, and the years that Obama alleged to have been at Columbia, I was at Columbia and also Union. I can take out. I have a student ID card says Columbia University. And the reason why I had a student ID card that said Columbia is because Union Theological Seminary and Columbia University, we were allowed to use the libraries, the health facilities, and other facilities of Union. And Union had a program, co-op program with Columbia, where you can get an MSW from Columbia and an MDiv from Union, just for the 4-year course. So I was at Columbia when Obama said he was there. Nobody ever saw him. I never saw him. And there ain't no way. So the Obama was never a student at Columbia University, never there. So my question is, okay, if it's still not too late, everybody, release Obama's transcripts. Columbia University, I call upon you, and Harvard as well, I call upon you to release Obama's transcripts, since they have released illegally Tribulation Trump's taxes. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. Now that the coronavirus, a lot of people are afraid to send their children to schools, especially the public school system, and I tell you, I don't blame you. It is very risky in the public school system, and so a number of parents have taken to homeschooling. And if you're out of state or even out of the region of New York City, the 5 boroughs of New York or the northern part of New Jersey, and you want to homeschool your children, let us be a homeschool assistant. We have a bona fide jam up and jelly tight education system here at the Outlaw School System, from kindergarten all the way up through high school, and we do a great job. We produce lawyers, doctors, architects, artists. I mean, God has literally laughed on us as an education institution, and has just given great blessings. Some of the best institutions in America, our students are accepted at. And we recently had one of our students graduate cum laude. That's the first. That is a first, and we need to make note of that. While we have students that have been accepted at Yale, at Juilliard, at New York University, and a number of other very prestigious schools, our first cum laude has happened in our institution, and that's a first that we need to make sure that the education system, the Outlaw School System, acknowledges that. But what I want to say to you, if you're planning on homeschooling your children, register with our online homeschool assistance program. We have an online homeschool assistance program where you can register. You're living in Houston, you're homeschooling your children, but we can come alongside you every day, and we'll assign a special teacher to work with you and your children so that they will not be completely isolated. And you know that even though you're the parent, you're not fully qualified to teach them in every subject matter that they need to be taught in. It will be a wise thing for you to call our ministry at number 877-777-0734. Ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. The number is 877-777-0734, and ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. The number is 877-777-0734, and ask to speak to Elizabeth Manning. And go ahead and let us work alongside of you, because you, I mean, as loving as you are as a parent, you just aren't qualified to do all that is necessary. We can be of great assistance to you on your schooling program for your children.
It isn't just about making bent legs straight. It's about enabling these children to re-enter society. Someday they can marry, They can get a job, they can work. It really, truly gives them their life back.
Their medical photos that we take kind of show it all. Their pre-op picture, none of them are smiling and they all look really scared. And then in their post-op picture, they have the biggest smiles on and they're so happy. I mean, it's only 2 pictures, but you can see that a journey has happened.
They never even dared to dream before, and now suddenly it's reality that they can dream and that these dreams could actually come true.
All right, everybody, get ready. The big debates tonight. There have been 2 historical debate moments, I think, that's indelible in the minds of most Americans, especially news junkies and people who follow politics over the years. And I'll start with the latter first. Would be the event with Lord Benson and Dan Quayle in the vice presidential debate. Lord Benson, who was a quite erudite Texas senator, did what we said in North Carolina many years ago, sacked up Dan Quayle. And this was a powerful moment. I suppose the third one when Ronald Reagan said, "I'm not going to make age a part of my opponent's inefficiencies." But Mr. Engineer, let's roll that from many moons ago, Lord Benson and Dan Quayle in the debate.
I have as much experience in the Congress as Jack Kennedy did when he sought the presidency. I will be prepared to deal with the people in the Bush administration if that unfortunate event would ever occur.
Senator Benson.
Senator, I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
I'll never forget that moment. That was an incredible moment. And we just won't be able to forget it. Ronald Reagan did have a great moment as well. But I think that perhaps one of the more telling in terms of, as we're going to look at tonight, some things I'm going to go over about tonight's debate that we need to focus on in terms of Richard Nixon and Jack Kennedy in their debate back in the early 60s, and what happened in that debate was that Jack Kennedy, of course, with his Irish, Bostonian, if you will, erudite wealth presentation and his youth, and he was very photogenic and he just looked good on camera. Nixon, for whatever reason, they said he didn't wear makeup that night and he needed a shave. And he looked very mean. He looked like a bulldog. Even though many argued that if you listen to Richard Nixon and Jack Kennedy that night debate, if you're sitting at home listening by way of radio, which a lot of people did, people who listened by radio said Nixon knocked it out of the park, that he beat the living daylights out of John Kennedy. But the television was a whole different thing because Nixon was not very photogenic. And so obviously the television audience became the winner of the day. But I think that the pictures that we have, it shows Jack Kennedy and Nixon, and there are some that have a closer point of view. I didn't ask for those, I should have. That shows that Nixon needs a shave. He didn't have makeup, and Jack Kennedy looked like a superstar. And so the visuals of that debate gave Kennedy the win. Ultimately, I think what's important as well is that tonight, Tribulation Trump is going to have a big advantage over Joe Biden because Tribulation Trump, for whatever you think about him, yes or no, is very photogenic. He is very camera friendly. The camera loves him. The camera loves Trump. And he's worked on that persona for years on The Apprentice. You know, he's worked on the way he looks. He knows what the camera is looking for. And he has worked on it. He knows that the camera is looking at his hair. He looks like one of the Beach Boys. You know, he knows the camera loves the tanning of his skin. He sleeps under a suntan. He just doesn't use, makeup. He sleeps under a tanning machine. He has a tanning machine in the White House. He knows that. He knows that blue is a favorite color. He knows that red, white, and blue is indelible in the minds of most Americans. When they see red, white, and blue together, automatically people think patriotic. And that's why he always wears it. A red, you think by now he'd be embarrassed. No, he's not, because it works consistently. Nobody gets tired of looking at him in the colors of the flag, the red, white. Now, Joe Biden, on the other hand, is a bit grumpy looking, and God help him if he has to walk, because he acts like he's got something wrong with his bowel movements or something. Oh, Lord have mercy. And he's not very photogenic. Biden isn't. He's skinny looking. He doesn't fill up the camera. He doesn't impress you at all. Actually, Biden looks best with a mask on. When he looks like that black mask, shadowed over against the color of his skin and his hair, gives him a personality. Otherwise, he looks terrible without those items. So I think that Trump has a great advantage tonight, like John Kennedy had over Richard Nixon. And I think Trump has a great advantage the way Lord Benson had over Dan Quayle. All right, watch for those things tonight. And then tomorrow we can talk about them Monday morning, quarterback them to see exactly how I fared in my handicapping the debate. I'm going to ask the engineer if he'll take me out of this segment, if he's ready to take me out of this segment, and I'm going to take you into another segment about Black Lives Matter. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. Why is it that rich black people, Hamites, are afraid to live in black neighborhoods? Well, we know what the answer is. I don't have to be a genius to figure that one out. They don't want to live in black neighborhoods because black neighborhoods are dangerous. But I think what pushes here, the tension here, what pushes this question to be a question of embarrassment is because you would say, well, listen, LeBron James is famous. He's alleged to be the world's greatest athlete. He ain't. But that's what they say about him. And everybody knows him. All the young boys know him. Everybody knows. So why would LeBron James, as famous as he is, be in danger in a black neighborhood? That doesn't make sense. It would seem that because of his popularity, who he is, that he would be revered, that he would be worshipped in a black neighborhood. That ain't the case. And everybody knows it. LeBron knows it, and all other rich black people know it as well. Don't matter how wealthy you are. Don't matter how well known you are. Don't matter how rich you are. If you black, you're in a black neighborhood, black people will kill you like they kill everybody else. There's something about the cognitive tension of the black man that a successful black man is not, even though he's well known and well successful globally, he is less successful and safe in his own neighborhood among his own people. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows that the black man would kill LeBron James if he lived in there. Everybody knows it. But that ain't all. No, there's more. So listen, if LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and a bunch of others are concerned for their lives, how much more so do you think the white police officer is concerned for his life when he come into the hood and he see y'all standing on the corner or he trying to talk to you? That if you kill LeBron James and LeBron James know it, that's why he don't live in Harlem. How much more so does the white police officer have to fear you because you have built up years of reputation of being a barbaric, indiscriminate killer of anything and everything that moves within your block, 2 blocks from where you live? It's the truth. You know it's the truth. The other day, I was teaching about LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, right? And I'm not here to mock him, but I'm here to tell the truth. Kobe, of course, started out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He goes to the LA Lakers, right? He used to live around in the hood. Started making big money. Moved out the hood, moved into Hollywood, where all the rich movie stars live. He's making more money than most of those rich living stars. And he used to drive through. What's the name of that guy that used to play for the Philadelphia 76ers? God, what's his name? Light-skinned brother, used to wear a thing on his arm all the time. What was his name? Anyway, he used to drive his Bentley through Philly, right? The poor neighborhoods of Philly. And Kobe used to drive his Bentley through South Central. But he realized that was very dangerous. So he stopped even driving, forget about not living there, don't even drive his Bentley there no more. He started renting a helicopter to fly him from his house over South Central Los Angeles to the LA Lakers theater. This is just truth. What I'm getting at here is that, listen, let me tell y'all, tell a black man, the cognitive tension, the man's got a problem. He's got a serious problem. Somebody need to tell him. He got a serious, even wealthy, well-known global figures like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, if they lived in the black neighborhood, black people would kill them the way they kill everybody, the way they do everybody else. And so if the black man, if LeBron James is afraid of living around his own kind, how much more so does the white police officer that comes in from the suburbs and have to work in the black neighborhood? He gonna pull that trigger on you. He gonna bust a cap on you and ask questions later. He ain't gonna sit there and argue with you because you'll kill anybody, and he knows it. And that's why we need to talk. We need to start talking about that. Black Lives Matter, and Rashad Brooks, and all that. They take Trayvon Martin, and all of them. It's the truth. The black man, the Hamite, that brother has got a serious problem. Can't get his own people to live around him. The other thing is that, the black woman, Hamite woman, can't find a husband now. And I said all this has happened mainly, it has been escalated greatly since the election of Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama. And, it's hard and hard now for a Hamite woman, to find herself a Hamite man. Mainly because he's greatly unemployed now, he's marginalized now, and the more vicious he comes, I'll tell you what you do. Go to a local bank. What kind of banks they got? They got Wells Fargo, they got, what kind of banks they got in your part of the world, right? Chase Bank, what they got. Go in there and see how many black men you see working in the bank. I'll wait. I'll sit here and wait for you to come back. See how many they got black men they got working in the bank, right? Now, if you want to find out where black men are qualified to work, go to McDonald's or Wendy's, or Taco Bell, Popeyes, Kentucky Fried. And you don't really see a lot of them in there either. But you definitely ain't gonna see them in the bank around sensitive other women. He has, since the advent of Obama, he has become a monster, the black man. The Black Lives Matter man, he has become a monster, and he's unemployable. Since Obama? And then, of course, since he's unemployable, then his lifestyle for a decent Hamite woman who's gone to college, she's got a degree, she's trying to make it, she wants a man that can come along and they can live comfortably together, but he ain't there. And that number of people that are out, the men that are out there, is scarcer and scarcer than hen's teeth. And then compounded with that, with Obama making same-sex marriage legal and men start going with men, women now, they can't find a man because he's not, the man they could have had is now with another man. And all the people are supporting this, including the churches. It is absolutely incredible. But let me share something with you. You probably never thought about this before, but can I share it with you? And I promise not to inflict myself upon you any further when we say that it's true, Pastor Manning. Yes, it is. That LeBron James' life would be in danger. His wife and family would be in danger if he lived in the hood. He'd get robbed, murdered, and maimed trying to get out of his car. Because black people would kill you. That's why police shoot them. You're right, Pastor Manning. Well, I know I'm right. But the other thing is this, is that, we're the Hamite brother, the sausage brain, such a barbarian, where he's not such a barbarian, and people like LeBron James, or Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, and all the, Jay-Z, all of them, they got money. Dr. Dre's wife moved into the Beverly Hills Hotel and said she wants $1 million a month. Was it $1 million or $25 million a month? Alimony. Good God Almighty. Dr. Dre got money, but he ain't gonna live in the hood. But imagine this, check this out, economically, so y'all don't think like that. But the taxes that, let's take all the wealthy, rich black people, sports athletes, musicians, football players, entertainers, actors, all of them, they don't live among their own people. But if they did, imagine, to put it this way, the taxes that they pay, the taxes that Michael Jordan pays to the county that he lives in, that goes to support the schools that white children go to, right? What he's got, $40 million house? I don't know what it costs, $50 million house. And the taxes he has to pay on that every year, what, $2, $3 million in taxes, $4 or $5 million in taxes every year, and other taxes that he pays. The taxes that Michael Jordan pays, and those taxes are then distributed to the local county boards, to the local schools, to the local highways, local police officers. The local people in Michael Jordan's community gets all those millions of dollars of taxes going to white people, right? If Michael Jordan, LeBron James lived in the hood, the taxes from their money, their income, their houses would all go to the local people, and will go to the local schools here. Where black children go. In other words, Michael Jordan will be, he and LeBron James and all other, there's enough money in taxes by rich people, Jay-Z, Dr. Dre, Kobe Bryant, there's enough money being paid by rich black Hamite people going to white children, to white schools, to white police officers, to white sheriffs, to white judges. That could be going to black schools, black children, Hamites, if they lived in the same neighborhood, and they pay big taxes out there in the burbs where these hypocrites live. They pay big money. There's enough money with all of the celebrities, Hamite celebrities, to finance every historically black college on planet Earth, and they never, ever have to ask tuition of any student again. There's enough money that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z pays in taxes that could feed and build hospitals in every nation in Africa. Listen, Danny Thomas, one man, Danny Thomas from years ago, I don't know if you remember. Danny Thomas, one man, started St. Jude Hospital as an actor. There's enough money that Michael Jordan, that LeBron James, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, you name them, you've seen them, you know who they are. They could each have their own hospital in every nation in Africa, staffed with doctors with the taxes that they pay. And all that money goes to white people, and yet they talk about Black Lives Matter. Hell, Black lives don't matter, not to these creeps, because black neighborhoods don't matter to them. I've never seen anything like these sausage brain, cognitive tension hypocrites. All that money, all that tax money, they want me paid. The city of New York want all our church to pay them $2 million for taxes on our church. $2 million! Then they said, well, you got to, because we got to support the schools, we got to support the police officers, we got to the prison guards, the firemen, and all that. All that money that these black people got, they all give it to white people. Then they come be talking about Black Lives Matter. I ain't never seen nobody that crazy as y'all black people. I swear before God and 7 other responsible people, I ain't never seen anybody as dumb and stupid as LeBron James and the rest of y'all. It don't make no sense. Hospitals could be all over Africa. But you know why? They're scared to live around y'all. They're scared to come to the hood Ask Jesse Jackson. Ask Obama. They're scared to come to the hood because they know what will happen if they do. So my friend, Black Lives Matter is a lie because black neighborhoods don't matter. If Black Lives Matter, now you look the next time one of these low-life freaks, one of these sausage-brain idiots roll up on you talking about Black Lives Matter, ask them, do black neighborhoods matter? Do black lives in black neighborhoods, do black neighborhoods matter? Because that's where black lives live, in black neighborhoods. Do they matter to LeBron James? No. No, they don't. And the other thing is this, is that there is such a barbaric spirit, one of utter barbarism, that Michael Jordan does not feel safe in a black neighborhood. He's safe around white people who we think have a less sense of violence, even though the police officers that come to the black neighborhood live in the same neighborhood that Michael Jordan lives in, but they have less sense of violence than the average black man in the black neighborhood. And that's true. That's why they don't live around you. It's just they can get a nicer house. That isn't the case. So if Black Lives Matter, then black neighborhoods would matter. And I want to say to them, you know, you ought to come home to the, because people say, Pastor Manny, you live there. I do. I do. I wake up every morning in Harlem. I wake up because I realize the people need me. Now, many of them would want to hurt me, harm me, kill me, and do me harm. I know that. I ain't crazy. Listen, I've been in prison. Come on now, let's talk. I've been in, I don't walk the prisons of 2 states. I know how to watch my back. I learned that, but I ain't crazy. I know they want to do me harm. I understand, but I know they need me. They see, they need me to tell them the truth. They need me. That's why I wake up in Harlem every day. I could possibly live somewhere. I wouldn't want to live. In fact, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. You know, I want to live where I'm needed. I want to serve breakfast to children that need me. You know, that's what's in my heart. So why don't we have these brothers, come on home, LeBron James, come home, Jay-Z, come home to Harlem, Spike Lee, come home to Harlem, Al Sharpton, come home to Harlem, Obama, come on back to home, come back to the hood, come home to Harlem. I tell you what, they ain't gonna do that. Well, maybe they will, but maybe you can help get this message out. Maybe you have a venue, maybe you have a social media, maybe you have a television, maybe you have a reporter, maybe you have a newspaper, you know, to get the word out. Obama, come home to Harlem. Al Sharpton, come home to Harlem. LeBron, come home to Harlem. You know, Jay-Z, come home to Harlem, man. You're raised up out there on Stuyvesant, out there in the projects, out there on Macon. Where you raised up out there? I know them projects. I know out there between Lafayette Avenue. I know where you were raised up out there. Come back to the hood, man. Come home and live among your people. Come home. Maybe y'all can help me get the word out. And next time you see one of these freaks on television and they're talking about Black Lives Matter and they're all of this and one thing after the other, you say, wait a minute, these are a bunch of phonies. These people talking about Black Lives Matter don't live black themselves. They don't live black. They're milking white folk for money. And what we need is forget about putting hospitals in Africa. We need education institutions. I want to tell you, the Hamite man, that man, you said, well, but he graduated Harvard with a law degree. I said, the Hamite man. But if he graduated from Harvard with a law degree, that means he's smart. Have you seen him? Have you seen him? Well, Pastor Manning, I mean, come on now. I can understand if you're talking about homeless people, convicts. But you mean to tell me that the man that he has a medical degree, he's just as ignorant? Yes! Yes! Yes, he is. And the worst ones are the ones that come from Africa. Come over here. Over there in Africa talking about how bad America is, this nation that put our brothers in slavery, and yet they can't wait to get here. Something wrong with him. Something wrong with him. So I thought I need to tell you that we need to build our neighborhood. I tell you what, let's build an arch here in the community. Mr. Engineer, I know I didn't tell you about this. I warned you. Well, let's build an arch. That's what we don't. You have to bring it up. But let's build an arch. Come, brothers, y'all, come on, come do come live. Put your money where your mouth is. If Pastor Manning can walk the streets of Harlem, wake up in Harlem every morning, why can't you?
Let's get close to the Lord. Oh, yeah. Let's get close to the Lord. Oh, yeah. Living life from day to day. We so busy, lose our way. Feeling empty and confused. Well, my friend, just one thing